Would you love to indulge in a rich chocolatey cake, but you feel guilty about the sugar overload that will come with it? I feel the same way, which is why I came up with this naturally sweetened triple chocolate cake. It's gluten-free with tapioca and almond flour. It earns its triple chocolate name with a moist, flavorful cake, a fluffy sweet potato chocolate frosting, and a smooth chocolate ganache drip. And there's not a speck of processed sugar or flour in sight. I'll show you a super simple way to frost this cake without any piping. Then I'll show you the simple steps to make a fancy layered cake that is a real showstopper. Now don't worry if you're not a pro cake decorator, because neither am I. But together we're gonna look like we are with these simple decorating techniques. Now consider yourself warned, because at the end of this video I'm gonna show you a sugar comparison between a traditional chocolate cake and this recipe. To begin making our frosting, we need to prepare our sweet potatoes. And we're going to need 2 cups of chopped sweet potatoes, which is about 2 medium sweet potatoes. So once we've peeled our potato, we want to go ahead and just chop it into some smaller chunks that are going to steam quickly. To steam the sweet potatoes, I love using just a medium saucepan with a steamer tray. And so all you have to do is fill up the bottom of the pan with water just until it barely reaches the tray. And then we just put our sweet potatoes inside. And then we'll put it on the stove with high heat for about 15 minutes or until the sweet potatoes are soft when they're poked with a fork. And then once they're done steaming, you'll want to drain them and let them cool to at least room temperature. And you can speed that up by putting them inside of your fridge. So here are some sweet potatoes that I steamed earlier, and they've been cooling off in my fridge. So now we're ready to start making our frosting. We're gonna use a food processor to make sure all of our ingredients get blended until smooth. So we're gonna start with 2 cups of our sweet potatoes. Then we're gonna add 4 ounces of cream cheese. And as an additional natural sweetener, we're gonna add 1/4 cup of maple syrup. And of course, 1/2 cup of cocoa to bring in that rich chocolate flavor. Add 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, as well as 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And we're going to add 1 tablespoon of oil, and I like to use extra light olive oil. And then we want to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now we're gonna put on our lid and then blend it on high until everything is smooth. Ooh, that looks perfect. Look how creamy that is. All right, now we'll go ahead and transfer this to a bowl. Wow, that is so thick and creamy. That looks amazing. And now for a pinky test. That is so delicious. It's just sweet enough without being overpowering. And you would never guess that there is a sweet potato in this frosting. Now that the frosting is done, we'll go ahead and store this in the fridge until we're ready to put it on the cake. Now we're ready to bake our chocolate cake. And this recipe will either fill up 3 6-inch round pans, or you could also use just a standard 9 by 12 baking pan. In this recipe, I'll go ahead and use the 3 6-inch rounds. Too many pans. You will definitely want to line your pans with parchment paper so that your cake will come out easily at the end. And I have actually bought these little 6-inch rounds of parchment paper, but you can easily cut your own. And start by just giving them a quick little spray in the bottom. And then insert, and then give them each another spray around the edges. And your pans are ready to go. Whenever I watch those baking competition shows and I see the cooks not line their pans, I'm always like, no, don't do it. And sure enough, they always have trouble getting their cakes out of their pans. But now we won't have that problem. I usually start with my wet ingredients, but I'm gonna start with the dry ingredients so that they can be well mixed before we add them. So we're gonna start with 1 cup of almond flour, 1/2 cup of tapioca flour, 2/3 cup of cocoa powder, give our rich chocolate flavor, 1/3 cup of coconut sugar, and then we're going to add 3 teaspoons of baking powder and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then using a whisk, we just want to go through and mix this all together and be able to break up any of these little soft clumps. All right, that looks nice and smooth. Now we'll go ahead and add our wet ingredients. We'll start with 6 eggs, 1/4 cup of oil, and I like to use extra light olive oil, and 1/3 cup of applesauce, as well as 1/2 cup of maple syrup. And for flavor, we'll add 2 teaspoons of vanilla and 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And using our whisk, we'll go ahead and just mix those together until all of our eggs are incorporated. Now we can go ahead and add our dry ingredients. And then now we want to whisk all of this together just until everything is well incorporated. That looks great, and now we can pour it into our prepared cake pans. Try to line them up with a touching edge for when I drip the batter across. Now we'll just go ahead and start pouring our batter, and I'm just gonna eyeball getting it even between all 3 pans. So now these will go into a 350-degree oven for about 28 minutes, or until a toothpick comes out clean. Well, here are some cakes that I baked earlier, and this one recipe makes up the 3 6-inch rounds or 1 9x12 pan. We're gonna begin with the easiest option, which is to frost the 9x12. So I have a batch of our frosting, and it's as easy as just dumping it all onto the top of our cake. And we'll maybe leave a little bit on the spatula for sampling. I don't know about you, but this becomes a very hot commodity in my house. So we're just gonna go ahead and start spreading to the edges, and we do want to keep it kind of nice and neat on our edges, so we're just going to go very carefully as we get to the corners. Okay, that looks fantastic, and that was super easy and simple. Like I said, I'm not a pro cake decorator, but there are a few supplies I found really make this a lot easier. And one of them is to have this little guy, which slices your cake evenly. Bring these in, and so what this does, it comes with these 2 little strings on it. So you just kind of like squeeze it together, and that makes it really easy to move the strings. Simply take one cake at a time, and I find if you just kind of like go back and forth like this little cutting motion, using your hand here to brace it, that cuts through pretty easily. And now I'll take a little spatula to be able to lift off what we just cut off. Oh no, we have extra cake just laying around with nothing to do. Darn. I'm gonna make the executive decision and let one of these cakes keep the little dome on top. And then this is my piece that's gonna go on the very top of the cake. And I'm okay with it having just a slightly rounded top to it. The next tool that I have found is very useful is having a little turntable to be able to place your cake on. These are not expensive, and I've included a link below to a great little package on Amazon that will give you the turntable, the little slicer, as well as some of the spatulas and some of the scrapers that go around the sides. But it has the circle on the plate, and so all I do is center the cake on that circle. Now we do want to have the same amount of frosting in between our 2 layers, so I'm gonna go ahead and use a scoop so that I can kind of measure out how much frosting we're putting. So let's go with 1, 2, 3. And then we're just gonna take our little froster here. And this is where it's really cool having this little, oops. You know what, I think we need to alter the strategy here. Since this is sliding around, having that paper underneath, I'm gonna go ahead and take the paper off and then just set the cake down onto the plate. Okay, now let's try this again. Like I said, we're gonna learn together, right? Now, we just want to turn our table with just have even pressure, and then that will gradually smooth the frosting out to the edges. Awesome. Okay, ready for layer number 2. And then we'll go back to our scoop, and we had 3 scoops of frosting. Now we can give it a little spin. Woohoo! We're doing great so far. Okay, last layer. Ooh, this is gonna be a nice tall cake. Make sure it's even. So this next step is going to be called adding a crumb coat. And this may seem unnecessary, but I find it actually makes a big difference. Because of all these crumbs around the edges and the little crevices, we want to even those out before we put our thicker layer of frosting. So what we want to do is first spread this out on top. And then what we can do is gradually let it come down off the edge and just go along the sides. And this layer, you just want thick enough to fill in the crevices. So I'm just gonna give it a quick spin here. Okay, now just to smooth off the top. Okay, crumb coat is done. So now we want to put this whole thing into our freezer for about 10 to 15 minutes, which is going to make the next layer even easier to apply. This has been in the freezer for about 10 minutes, and now our crumb coat is nicely set. So we'll go ahead and add our outer layer of frosting, and we'll go ahead and just load some up on our spatula. and then gently start adding it to the side. And so now we can go a little bit thicker. Wow, just this frosting just goes on so smooth and silky. So that we have a nice smooth top up here, because we want there to be a little bit of a soft edge because we're going to be pouring our ganache and we want it to be able to drip over the edge. Okay, how did we do? I think that looks really good. I'm actually going to put this back into the freezer while we make the chocolate ganache. To make the chocolate ganache, you can use any chocolate chips that you like. We're going to start with half a cup of chocolate chips, and then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of coconut oil, as well as a dash of salt, and then we'll microwave this for 30 seconds. All right, I'll go ahead and give this a little stir. You can see they're starting to melt. And now we'll pour in 2 tablespoons of coconut milk. And this is the milk that comes in a can. And then we'll put this back in the microwave for another 25 seconds. Okay, now we'll go ahead and give this a good stir. All right, so you can see that that's a nice consistency that it will just gently pour. As of now, our simple 9x12 cake is just a double chocolate cake because it has chocolate cake and then it has the frosting on top. So as an idea of how you can make it a triple chocolate cake is you could just sprinkle the top with some maybe mini chocolate chips, or you could go ahead and cut this into squares, take them out, and then drizzle some of the chocolate ganache over the top. So that's what we'll go ahead and try. Carefully take out that first piece. Oh, that looks beautiful. And now we can take our chocolate ganache. Let's see if we can get that to drip down the side. There we go. All right. So at this point, we can determine that it needs to be just a little bit more liquidy to have a little bit better drip. So we can easily add just another tablespoon of our coconut milk. Mix that in. Oh yeah, that's got a much better drip to it. See, we're problem solving on the fly. All right, so now we've got at least about 2 drips on every side. So now we want to put a little bit more on the top just to spread it around and kind of connect all those drips together. There we go. And again, as an option that doesn't require any piping on top, we can go ahead and take some chocolate sprinkles and go ahead and sprinkle just a few on the tops of these, just because sprinkles makes everything more special. That's a beautiful way that we can create some individual slices without any piping that are now triple chocolate with our cake, with our frosting, and with the ganache. Got our cake back out of the freezer, and now it's ready for its ganache drip over the top. I have to admit, I'm a little nervous, but we're committed. We can do this. Giving this just a little pour right over the front edge. Ooh, that's pretty. Okay, here we go. We can do this. There we go. We just go around, kind of do a little zigzag motion. And if we let a little bit more go, it should drip down a little bit further. Oh, this is so pretty. Okay, we made it all the way around. So now we want to cover the top of our cake. So we can go ahead and pour some of this out here and then just gently spread it around. Ah, yes, this is working wonderfully. Okay, whew, we did it. To finish this off, I think we need to add a few more sprinkles because sprinkles just makes everything more special. And sprinkle on top so that they can get into that ganache while it is still soft. There we go. Oh, that looks fantastic. So we could stop here, or we could go one step further and go ahead and pipe some really beautiful little, I don't know if you call them rosettes, or little towers of frosting on this, which I think would make it even more special. While our cake is in the freezer, I'm going to go ahead and get our piping bag ready. So the first step is to just drop our tip down inside the bag. And I have found that with these bags and this tip, I actually don't even have to use the coupler that comes with it. Hopefully this is not annoying to any professional decorators out there, but I just found I really didn't need it because it fits so snugly. So we need to just take a pair of scissors and kind of guess where we'll need to cut this so that our tip can slide down. Let's go ahead and start there. See how that does? Now we just need to get the frosting into the bag. So go ahead and pull this back on itself. And then I find if I just get another glass or jar that I can put my bag on, that helps to hold it steady. And then just bloop. Go ahead and plop that inside. So now I can go ahead and lift this up out of our jar. Just kind of, and wiggle that down. And it is ready to go. Our ganache is nicely set, so now we can go ahead and pipe on top of it. So I'm going to make just kind of like a circular rosette shape. First, I'll go ahead and make one on the side closest to me. Okay, scary, but we're committed. So just put some gentle pressure and go ahead and push some out in a circle and up. Voila! That looks great. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So I'm going to pump some out, go in a circle and up. Now I can visually divide these two halves and put another one right halfway in between. Push, circular, up. There, so now I have these perfectly even open spots to add 4 more. Okay, last one, we're on the home stretch here. And go around and up. Nice, we did it. That looks beautiful. I feel so proud. Okay, so now we just have to get it off of our turntable and onto our serving dish. This might be the scariest part. So I'm just gonna take my big spatula. Oh boy, here we go. Fingers underneath on this side. Oh, piece of cake. Sorry, pun intended. I had to. Well, that is gorgeous. I'd be excited to serve this for any special occasion or birthday, or just because we love chocolate cake. Well, I have been so patient in staring at this chocolate cake, so I am excited to finally give it a try. Wow, that biteful is exactly what you would want in a chocolate cake. That tastes absolutely divine. I get the 3 different chocolate flavors. I get just the nice sponge of the cake, and then that fluffy frosting that I would have never guessed has sweet potato in it. And then I get the smooth chocolate of the ganache, and then just that little tiny crunch of the sprinkles. As they would say, that is firing on all cylinders, and that is amazing. And now for the sugar comparison I promised. A slice of traditional chocolate cake has roughly 64 grams of sugar in it. And that is equal to, oh, it's gonna take me a minute to stack up all these sugar cubes. This is the equivalent of 64 grams in one slice of cake. Our recipe has roughly 18 grams of sugar in one slice. So that's about 4.5 sugar cubes. And I painted them brown just to represent the fact that they are natural sweeteners. So clearly this recipe is the healthier option, having far less processed white sugar, and we did not use any white flour. And what I love about my recipe is that this cake has so much flavor that is not masked or suffocated by so much sugar. Now this is still a treat which should be enjoyed in moderation. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today in my kitchen and for decorating this cake with me. If I can do this, you can do this. If you'd like to see the recipe card for this video, please visit my website at gentletummy.com. And I also invite you to like and subscribe to my channel. And if you know someone who loves chocolate and could use a healthier option, I invite you to share this video with them. And I cannot wait to have you with me in my kitchen again next time.